wonder if you might consider in the first paragraph using first person. Um, I'm too lazy right now to get up and open up we and see the first paragraph of we. But I feel like, you obviously jump right into it in the second paragraph, and you then obviously also include that second person and addressing your intended future reader, a la we, in his entries. But it just seems like, you get this hell incarnate that sounds very much like it's coming. It sounds very personal. It sounds, I can hear a voice already developing in the narrator, and I just wonder whether it wouldn't make sense to get the first person established in this first paragraph. But maybe you had an intention for not doing that. I wonder whether instead of Chancellor of Wit, which then when you explain that it collects and catalogs information and history of the public, I mean, when I hear wit, I think of humor, and this obviously doesn't seem like a very humorous state. It's, the only of the three texts we've read that I can imagine having kind of that, Chancellor of Wit might have been Brave New World, and you're not trying to emulate that. So, what about like wisdom? It seems like Chancellor of Wisdom. That sounds almost, and that would stick with your. I love the W alliteration. So I don't know. Maybe you had something different in mind, but I don't get a sense that they have a whole ministry or sector working on humor. So here I'm wondering if there's some subtle if not, probably not sarcasm, but if there's some subtle irony here that's happening unbeknownst to our narrator. That, Dame, yes, of course it has. It is a title of prestige, but especially it seems. I think as soon as I got to bloke, it seems when paired with bloke, it obviously can have much different connotations, and used idiomatically is very different than something like our friend Dame Judi Dench. So I like that, and I wonder if that will play out a little bit later. I think this is the second time you've used that sort of not diminutive. That's not the word, but the shorthand version of course, and somehow it's thrown me both times in that I'm not reading it as of course. So maybe you either put that sort of backward apostrophe to indicate that the of has been taken out, or I don't know, that it doesn't seem like you're using a very jargony language anywhere else, even though this is again a kind of personal diary type writing. So I wonder if maybe it would be better just to use of course, but I will leave that up to you. I assume you've chosen the cathedral intentionally, and sort of the irony again that well, when one thinks of the cathedral, I don't know it well. I've never been there, but of the World War II bombings, and that it's part of it is only remains as only a shell, and I think that there's kind of irony that's that shell, which in a way is what remained of before World War II, now is the only thing supposedly that remains of the before of this civilization. So um, I don't know. I wonder if that's something that you might address. Some of these very specific choices that you might address in your rationale. So it seems like this search into the forbidden parts of the library was really about discovering other physical worlds that existed. But I think it's interesting that then the character stumbles upon this mythical world, and maybe there's a way that can be emphasized, this idea of sort of crossing into other worlds. And I think there's also a parallel here, although I know you're not attempting to incorporate Brave New World, but there's nothing that says that you can't mention that this has almost some parallels. I think in the role of Shakespeare, that Shakespeare's work plays in Brave New World. So that might be something too you want to consider. So I think this rationale is really well done. I'm glad you did it. I'm glad you took that suggestion. I've made some suggestions throughout your piece of, other elements that you might want to incorporate, and you obviously, you have a little bit more space. This is just 4 pages, so but yeah, overall I like it, and um, I wonder. I guess the only thing about kind of the structure of the rationale is, do you want to go from kind of what feels in a way like most important to least important? Like, I mean, the naming seems, it's something, but it's not trivial, but it's a kind of a simple replication of what you saw in the novel, and I wonder if you might want to put that first, and kind of reorder so that in a way you're leading your reader to some of the most impactful decisions and kind of the more complex decisions you made as an author.